Hi everyone, welcome back. Are you stuck with the decision between a storage tank, water heater replacement, and an on-demand tankless system? Don't let the sales pitches or myths make that decision for you. I'm going to dispel some myths and give you the real rundown on-demand tankless water heater systems versus your storage tank water heaters for anybody that's in the market that's looking to have to replace their water heater at some point soon. So the tankless on-demand water heater systems are very efficient. They're about 33%, 33 right out of the box. But there's a caveat to that, and that is what type of environment are you needing this hot water for? Okay, so yes, it could potentially save you money on your energy bills, but it could also cost you more, and I'm going to explain why. So a storage tank, let's start there. Your storage tank water heater is standard 45, 55, 65 gallon storage tank of hot water. So that system stores hot water for you so that it's there ready for you when you need it. The issue is when you're not home and at work, your water heater is running every so often to maintain the temperature in that hot water tank. So if you go on vacation for a week, you're spending money to keep that water hot, whether it's being used or not. Don't be fooled by vacation mode. Vacation mode, all it does is lower the temperature of the water in the tank, but it still has to maintain that temperature, so it's still going to run while you're away. The other issues I have seen, or reasons, I guess, from salespeople to upsell would be, well, it takes longer for your hot water from a storage tank to get to your taps, where with the hot water is on, or with it on demand, your hot water is on demand. So you get it right away. Not true. That is not true at all. If you take a water heater, storage tank water heater, you have hot water in that tank, and I have 50 feet of piping of water that's cold, room temperature basically, before it gets to the faucet. When I turn the hot water on that faucet, it takes time for that hot water to get from the tank to that faucet, right? So if I take that storage tank water heater out and I put an on-demand water heater in and I'm heating the water up instantly, I still have to have that water travel that 50 feet of pipe to get to the faucet. So you're not saving any time. In fact, you're losing time and you will waste a little bit more water. And here's why. So on a storage tank system, the water's already hot. It's just there waiting. As soon as you open the tap, it starts flowing, right? On an on-demand water heater system, that doesn't happen. When you open the tap, there's a flow sensor inside of the unit that determines that all of a sudden that there's water flowing. So it won't start the burner unless there's water flowing. So when you open the tap, the water heater has to sense that there's a water flow, start the venter motor, do a trial for ignition, then ignite, then it starts heating the water up instantaneously. So you have a 3 to 4 second delay of getting water to that endpoint of at the faucet, right? With a on-demand water heater. Now, there are workarounds around that. Those workarounds work for the storage tank as well. They put a circ pump in with a loop system that keeps hot water at the faucet all the time. You can put that system on a storage tank unit and an on-demand unit. It makes no difference. But if you're just doing a plain swap for swap, storage tank versus on-demand system, there is no faster way to get water to your faucet by just putting in an on-demand water heater. It's actually going to delay it a little bit longer, so you'd be using a little bit more water. There's several other myths. The one advantages, I guess I should say, of the on-demand is that they are a space saver, right? Your storage tank takes up a lot of room, where a on-demand unit would just mount onto a wall and it doesn't take up any floor space. So you do gain occupancy space that way in the room or the utility room. It is 33% more efficient out of the box depending on the usage. Okay. So if you are an older couple and the kids are out of the house, an on-demand system would make perfect sense, especially if you're a snowbird and you go down south a lot. That is like in the winter time for extended periods of time. On-demand, 100% the way to go. If you're a young family, an on-demand might be okay for you too until your kids become teenagers and start taking extended long showers. So, in order for an on-demand water heater to heat the water up instantaneously, it needs to have an extremely higher BTU rate, which means it's using a lot more gas to heat that water up super fast, right? So the difference of a storage tank water heater and a on-demand water heater could be almost 200,000 BTUs. So you would have a 45,000 BTU burner on a storage tank water heater. So it's just a small burner just to keep that, maintain the hot water in that tank because I got 75 gallons or 65 gallons of hot water already heated, ready to go. Where on demand, you don't have that. You're taking 50 degree temperature water from the city. And you're trying to heat it up really quick to get it down there. Well, that takes 200,000 or 250,000 BTUs, right? So if you have a teenager that's using long showers, they're using a high volume of water, who's burning a higher rate of fuel to heat that water on demand for an extended period of time where you could just be drawing it from a storage tank that's already heated it up at 45,000 BTUs, if that makes sense to you. So if you're using a lot of hot water all the time with a young family like that, then that's going to matter. So other myths too that I've heard is that the temperature of the water is different between the storage tank and the on-demand water heater, where salesmen will say, well, your storage tank can't get the water as hot as a on-demand water heater can or as fast. Not true. Your storage tank will maintain water at a much higher temperature than an on-demand system will. And this is why. So the on-demand system is going to be a high temperature heat exchanger that's transferring the heat very quickly, but it has a maximum output temperature of 120 degrees. So we don't want to be scolding anybody, right? Whereas a storage tank water heater, because the water's sitting there and stagnant, it has to be held at a higher temperature to stop bacteria from growing. So it has to maintain 140 degrees minimum. That's standard code in Canada, or building code, I guess, in Ontario for sure, that to prevent bacterial growth inside of the tank, it must be held at a higher temperature, 140 degrees minimum. Well, that's scalding temperatures, right? So that's why the building code now says you must have a mixing valve that every time you install a storage tank water heater, so that when your 160 degree or 140 degree water comes out of that tank, it mixes with the cold water to get a lower temperature out the pipes to the faucet so that you don't burn anybody, right? So if you are getting a storage tank water heater installed, make sure that there is a mixing valve installed with the system, because that is code. And I know there's a lot of corners that get cut out there where they'll rip a system out, put a new one in, and avoid that because it's an additional cost that they would have to do. But now you're keeping your water temperature at a lower temperature in the storage tank, just to prevent scalding at the taps. But what will happen over time is you're going to get a bacteria buildup and start making your family sick, right? So over time, so we don't want to do that. So that is, I guess, the gist of what the difference between a storage tank water heater and a on-demand water heater is. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's something that I'm missing. I'll go through it and maybe make another video later. I'm back. Yes, there is one thing that I forgot, and that was that a storage tank water heater will lime up over time, depending on the quality of water, right? Where a on-demand system is easily maintained and flushed. If it has to be maintained every 1 to 3 years, you need to flush it out with an acid-based flush kit, and that will keep the system clean, so you don't have that issue where an on-demand system can last you 20 years, right? Where a storage tank is only going to last you 7 to 15 years before you start having lime issues build up inside of that water heater. So that's just another thing that you want to keep an eye on. And serviceability, if a system limes up on a storage tank water heater, you have to replace the whole water heater. With an on-demand system, you just have to undo. The technician just has to take out 15 screws, or bolts, pull that heat exchanger out, replace the heat exchanger, and you're back in business with that same water heater to carry on another 15, 20 years, right? If it's neglected and becomes limed up and damaged. So that's one other tip for you too. Sorry, I forgot that. So have a great day. Thanks. Later, but as a homeowner, don't get roped in to spending thousands of dollars extra because the on-demand systems are double the cost of a storage tank system. Don't get roped into purchasing that if you don't need it. If you're somebody who travels a lot or is older and, like I said, travels out of the country for X number of weeks or months out of the year, then an on-demand system is probably for you. If you have a young family with teenagers that like to have hour-long showers, probably not a good idea. Stick with the storage tank units and maybe just get a one that has a higher capacity, right? So instead of a 45-gallon one, if your kids are running out of hot water, replace it with a 75-gallon tank so that 3 people can have a shower instead of just one for an hour, not 2 hours. So, all right. Hope that was helpful. If you like it, click like. If you really liked it, subscribe, and hopefully we can save you some money there with that advice. So, thanks for stopping by.